Hello, welcome to Warblog. It's been a long time, and I've almost forgotten how to do it. But I saw this the Sudan coup. I thought this is awesome. The Africans know how to do war. There's all these bombs and explosions, and palaces about to be taken over. Meanwhile, in Donbass, they're still in a situation they were 100 years ago. I thought, oh, I'll do this one because I can't remember. I don't know what's going on. It's such a boring war. It's the worst war ever. And I thought, I'll do this one. It looks like they're about to take Advika. So I thought I'd search for it, and I couldn't be bothered to find another one. But I did it in April 2022. That's a year ago. And although it's sort of, there it is there, you can say, well, okay, maybe they've sort of made some ground. They still haven't sort of taken it. And I thought this was the age of mobile warfare. Anyway, and one of the things that sort of has come to light is that the US have special forces on the ground. So I've included them. So, and I think there's also the revelation of these documents that were leaked, which I haven't really looked at because they look incredibly boring. But they sort of indicate that basically the Pentagon is basically carrying out all the strategic work, the whole battle plan. It's basically an American war. Well, that's what it would look like. I mean, it's not surprising really, because I don't think the Ukrainians could organise a party in a brewery, booze up in a brewery. And considering the sort of the significance of some of their sort of defensive operations and counterattacks, it doesn't surprise me. And we also got this big so-called build-up for the spring offensive. And I have no idea what's going to happen there, but it's quite interesting actually how it sort of seems to be a concept, the spring offensive, when it gets hard. It's like British Rail. The wrong type of snow or leaves on the track. I mean, yeah, maybe it's hard going in the winter, but there are options, and so they're waiting for the ground to get hard for the spring offensive. It'd be interesting to see whether they can actually carry out any sort of spring offensive. I was reading that they want to sort of do something like that, and if they need to do well in order to have a strong position at the negotiating table. But anyway, so here we are. I wanted to do another one that said it's sort of just south of Bakhmut, but I couldn't find it, and I didn't really look that hard. I just wanted to get a game up because it's been so long. And I'm going to have a little blast, but not much. It seems to me that it seems to me, oh, look at all that. It seems to me that you could almost do anything here. I mean, let's just look at one little place here and get my favourite thing ever out, the drawing tool. Oh, let's do some big red lines. So we sort of got there. This drawing tool is so awesome. I can't believe it's been so long. Look at it. So we got this sort of, look at that. That is so awesome. So I think, you see, the thing is, what I'm sort of thinking, well, why don't we push, say, here? And then exploit and surround. I always sort of wonder why did they do things like that instead of just hitting their head against this, because in many sort of wars they ignore the towns and go around them and then just, you know, starve them out, so to speak. But I think the other thing that is constantly on the back of my mind is that, you know, there doesn't seem to be any use of strategic bombing. I would have thought that Kiev would be a pile of rubble now, because you know, the Ukrainians quite clearly want to leave places like Bakhmut a pile of rubble. And I would have thought every time they sort of do something that is sort of, you know, like bomb, you know, actual Russian territory, or attack civilian targets, etc., that the Russians would, you know, respond with causing damage to pretty much the only place in the Ukraine of any sort of significance or worth. I mean, obviously there are places in the west, but Kiev is sort of, you know, the nub of it all. And there's loads of historic buildings there, and you know, just things like industrial areas. The war effort is going to be going on, and every industrial unit is probably going to be given into some capacity to the production of, you know, munitions and the war effort. You know, there'll probably be people at home, you know, putting magazines and feeding belts together and stitching uniforms up and all sorts of things. But, you know, there's going to be loads of sort of strategic opportunities for, well, opportunities for strategic bombing, and they could just flatten places, you know, entire marshalling yards, industrial facilities, dockyards, you know, all these things. But they're not doing it. It just seems that, you know, they're just content to just sort of throw grenades at each other in Bakhmut and call it a war. But here, I'm gonna see what we can do here. So let's just sort of do the reload. So we've got some special forces down here. I mean, I'm not going to play it for long because I just want to get a video up. I keep looking around because my other computer is still updating. I'm not sure whether I've mentioned that it's been updating because I've started this video a few times. Because Microsoft keeps updating my gaming computer, which means I can never use it. But anyway, so this, see, the thing is, if I was to be playing this more strategically longer term, I think I might sort of do this a bit differently, you know, try to get some of these big stacks, but I sort of want to sort of exploit through here, which would mean, I mean, there's a big gap there, like, to start off with, but it would mean sort of destroying all these units. Now, what have we got there? We've got two lots of artillery, and they're in a town. So we can sort of try blowing that up. Oh, look. I'm not going to edit that now. I guess I could. Oh no, I'll have to load the game again. I'm going to blow this up. I'm going to put some artillery on here. Okay, a bit more maybe. Wow, they're really holding on in there, using everything for that one place. Oh. Oh, God. We got rid of some of their artillery. Oh, we got it. It took everything. So that's now empty. So we can now walk into there. Oh, oh no, it's on the other side of the river. I should really go and work for the Russians because that's sort of pretty much what they might do. Right. So I don't think I could possibly get it. There's no engineers there. And we got another stack there. Oh, what? There's no paratroopers. There's no anything like that in this war. I'd have to destroy that. I might be able to do it if I destroy that. Oh, one. Oh, it's just stupid. Bombers. Oh. Oh, look at that. Right. We got it. That was stupid. Right. Well. Oh, he's in. See, I want to sort of try and plonk all these people out there now. Right. Let's attack that. Oh, a DE. We'll push them back. We've got some special forces here. He's still got one, but he can't attack there. Oh, we've got some more. I know this. Okay. Let's try this. Okay, so we managed to push him back again to there. Right, let's use these irregulars. They're in defensive terrain. 2-to-1 an exchange. Okay, well, another 2-to-1 we should be able to. Another 2-to-1, another exchange. It's not what we want. Another exchange. Oh, that's so rubbish. Okay, let's just add these guys in as well. Oh, at least we push them back. Blew ourselves up in the minefield, but push that line forward. Let's see what I want to do. Let's use these special forces on there. So we'll push them back. But that's it, no more movement. Okay, let's just use everything here. Oh, that much. DE, okay. Okay, so we've managed to sort of push quite a way in that direction. He should really be there. Okay, so we'll push him back. So we've sort of cleared some of this area up. But there's basically nothing else we can do now. I mean, I could shuffle some things along here. See, can't get there. And I don't think he's going to be able to do much. So, why can't he move out? Oh, he can. Okay. So we've almost cleared that out. It's quite interesting how that works, really. But what we've got here now is this, with this sort of route right out of there. You know, the Ukrainians don't have much to sort of try and repair that, and they'd have to cross that route. So, you know, this river is really, you know, creating a block along there. And it's quite interesting, really. But then again, I don't actually know how realistic that river is, because it just sort of plonked the game together, really. But it's like a lot of things, actually. A lot of things, like loads of units where they shouldn't be. Look. So I'll have to go back and do that. But it's when I say it's like lots of things, it's sort of, you get to this stage where all of a sudden it becomes a free-for-all because you've sort of broken the line, and I don't think that's happening. You know, on the ground, it seems that they're having to sort of fight for every inch, and it sort of thinks, well, why isn't there a a backline? So presumably they've got large reinforced or large reserve to sort of fill holes like that. So when a hole like that appears, the Ukrainians are probably sending reinforcements along here. So that, you know, obviously they've got their internal lines of communication, etc. With, you know, a lot of Ukrainians ready to pull in on the reserve there. I don't want to do too much, but I wonder what we could do with. We could blow the blow the special forces up, because what I imagine is that in reality they're not big blue counters. That, you know, they're disguised in every way as Ukrainians. But I've seen quite a few of the videos. I don't really watch them as much because they're just so stomped for time, and my computer is still updating. So if I'd waited for that, I'd still be waiting. Now I've pretty much finished this video. But I was watching some videos, and you know, they've got all these mercenaries, French mercenaries, English mercenaries. I'm not sure whether I saw any Americans, but I'm presuming that there have been some American mercenaries in the general sense, as opposed to American special forces under the US military sense. But it seems as though that, you know, there's a lot of people going out there for the sort of the glory of it all. And I had a dream the other day, actually, that I was called up, and it was quite a somber dream because it became apparent that I had to go in some sort of first wave as infantry, and it was sort of like, I said, well, someone has to go, but I didn't really want to go because it was sort of like inevitable death. But the whole idea that someone has to go first was sort of the crux of the dream, really. It wasn't much more to it. I wasn't like on the front line, or I was just in some room with some people that I knew. I don't even know who they were, but I was talking to someone, and basically the whole idea was that I'd been called up and I had to go, and I was going to be in the first wave, and I felt that I was certainly going to die, and there's sort of some underlying emotion to not go, to somehow get someone else to go. Why do I have to do it? I don't want to die. But that's about the only dream I've had like that, and it was quite recent. But it's quite interesting because I think that there's got to be a bit of that. But you get all these mercenaries, and I think that they're, you see them posing with their guns, and they're going out there really for sort of like the sort of gains that only war can bring to the person, personal caliber, etc. So it's interesting. You've got one set of people that are gagging for more war, and you got a whole bunch of conscripts that don't want to go. And but anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to try and do more. I keep saying that, but I was just so overwhelmed with things. I sort of sit down and think, God, it'd be really great if that's all I had to do. And but I've got to do other things. But we'll see what the spring offensive, the Ukrainian spring offensive brings. I couldn't even possibly consider or guess what they would do. The only thing I did think in my sort of, in my 2.5 seconds of thinking about it was that, it would have to be some sort of inch-on maneuver, some sort of surprising thing that no one could imagine. Perhaps, a sudden invasion through Finland, or, a massive naval landing on the Crimea, or some sort of major airlift through to, some place far behind the front lines. Something that you couldn't consider. But it will probably be just a very, very heavy push in a very narrow place. And I think some people are sort of saying, what they want to do is to take ground. So they've got to take as much ground as possible in this offensive that, and it just seems to me that it's hardly a surprise offensive if it's sort of so open. I mean, I'm not even talking about the plans. They've been talking about this offensive that's going to happen when the spring comes. And it seems that, I mean, it takes the surprise out of it all to sort of, to know that this is going to come. But I think the crux of it will be just high volumes in a certain place. And it'd be interesting to see whether they succeed, really, because the Russians have basically demonstrated themselves to be quite inept at every level. I was hoping for sort of, amazing strategic maneuvers and mechanized warfare and things that we've never seen before. There's a lot of this drone stuff and precision strikes, but it hasn't done much. There's certainly no. I was thinking just the other day, about Vietnam and the hammer anvil. They never seem, they don't seem to push the Ukrainians back. The Ukrainians are not pushing and retreating back to a sort of, there's no Korean style, falling back as sort of like, overwhelming numbers in advance. And I think partly a lot of this is due to the fact that, and I always thought this, but we're living in the modern age in which the way those sorts of things were achieved in the past was by massive volumes of manpower. And I don't think that they can do that anymore, because you just need the photo ops of sort of like massive losses of people, in the digital age, and they can't. I imagine that they can't really afford that. To have those sorts of returns, whereas before they could. The Iran-Iraq war, where they had 80,000 people die in one day with human waves of Pasaran or whatever they were called. The North Korea, is it the North Koreans? I'm pretty sure it was, and the Chinese, but the North Koreans just ploughing division after division, and the losses were quite astounding. but they were just pushing and pushing and pushing them, the same units, and they were decimated, but they got a lot of ground. But then when the United Nations regrouped, they were unable to defend. But I don't know, I just think that, it's the sort of that nature, because otherwise I would have thought that they would be able to push. They would just send divisions across, thousands of men with thousands of casualties, but taking large cities and things like that. We're not seeing any of that. We're just seeing sort of Bakhmut with these private military contractors doing all this of the donkey work, doing it quite slowly. You see all these shots and you see them firing, but when you see what they're firing at, it's in a far distance. No one knows. They have to look through binoculars to see where they're firing at AK-47s. They keep firing and firing, and calling in indirect fire support and using rocket launchers and things like that. And you realise that they've been firing all that about against two people in advance, holding an outdoor latrine as a defensive position, using like £500,000 worth of kit to get there. And I think that historically that wouldn't have been done like that. But anyway, that's that. I'm going to leave it at that. As I said, I will try and get more and more done. But that's probably a big fat lie. But I do, because I sort of think, wow, look at this map. It's so amazing. Who did that? That was me. I can't even remember it now. It's sort of like if someone said, oh, build a game, I wouldn't be able to do it. I think, no, that's a lot of hard work. It's even hard work now building the scenarios, etc., etc. So I'm quite pleased with it. I'm just sort of half dreading the day when you can no longer move things about on the screen. But better not tempt fate there. Okay, I'll speak to you later. Cheerio.